Hello, my name is Lloyd Ramdari, and I'm a member of the technical support team here at Software Engineering of America. And I've been working in the IBM I environment for quite a number of years, with a large extent of my experience coming from securing the I. Today, we're here to discuss how to minimize risk from remote connections to the IBM I with 4 layers of checking. Here, we'll begin by speaking about some of the risk involved with not securing your IBM I exit points, and some of the popular approaches and some of their failures, as well as talking about our very own iSecurity firewall solution and its advantages. Beginning with the risk, we know that the IBM I operating system is shipped with the exit points already in place. So these exit points, if not secured by some kind of program or application, can be exploited by insiders as well as outsiders. Many savvy insiders, such as programmers, developers, can exploit those exit points from any remote connection, whether it's FTP, ODBC, SQL, any kind of Windows or other platform that has access to the I, they can exploit using the application that connects through these exit points. Since these exit points are not being secured and not being tracked, they're not visible to the administrator. So this leads to the IBM being very unsecure and exposed to hacks or breaches. Since the IBM is not shipped with programs to secure those exposed exit points, a lot of organization looks for other ways to secure them. One of the ways they choose is a homegrown application, but this leads to another issue where auditors are very distrustful of a customize a homegrown solution. This is prevalent because many of the auditors seems to think that the data are not very accurate, since they can be manipulated by the developer or programmers assigned to the solution. When organizations choose a third-party solution, however, sometimes these other solutions miss the mark completely because they're too rigid with how they're implemented. So many times they are only checking the exit point using one layer of security checking, which can be so rigid that it actually does not offer any flexibility to implement without interfering with production. As we all know, breaches can be very costly, and it can lead to lawsuits as well as huge fines leveled against the company for audit and compliance violations. With that being said, some of the popular approaches, such as homegrown solutions, are not widely received by the auditing environment. Some of the problems they encounter with homegrown solution is you must rely on the internal development staff. That means you have to allocate resources to keep the application current using your own programmers and developers. Not to mention the distrust that exists between auditors and the solution itself, and the overhead involved with keeping up with IBM constant updates at the OS. This can prove to be very inefficient and very expensive in the long run. When it comes to third-party solutions, however, we can find that a lot of the third-party solutions are more trustworthy, they're fully automated, and they're compliant with industry standards. But they can be lacking in other areas. As we can see overlooking at these solutions, we can see that they certainly lack complete IBM exit point checking because many do not use more than one layer of checking over the exit point. This leads to too many rules having to be implemented over that one layer of checking, which can make them unmanageable because it becomes too cumbersome and becomes clutter. The clutter leads to not being able to identify where the exit point needs to be secure in a better manner. Many of these third-party solutions do not have the ability to utilize the newest and latest exit points that are being developed by IBM, especially for SQL parsing, and the overall system performance is not often considered. We find that many third-party solutions require more DASD and CPU utilization as a result, which can lead to be too expensive, making the solution not a very cost-efficient solution for many of the organizations out there. When it comes to our solution, however, iSecurity Firewall, you will find it's a much more complete solution. We have not one layer of checking, we have 4 layers of security checking. It's fully automated, and we're ahead of the competition with built-in IPv6 support. It's a lot easier to manage the rules because there are fewer rules involved because they're spread over the 4 layers of checking. We have a very flexible implementation with our simulation mode, or FYI mode, which gives you an opportunity to develop your rules one exit point at a time. When you're comfortable with how your rules are logging while in simulation mode, you can certainly leave that mode and go into full intrusion prevention or real mode and begin working on the next exit point without interfering with production. We are one of the only 2 companies out there that can take advantage of the newest and latest exit point development by IBM when it comes to newer technologies. Our best fit algorithm performs a lot better than most because we are not using the rules, so many rules to be cumbersome. So our rules are spread over the 4 layers of security checking, and that leads to a lot less need for overhead. We also support SIM integration, which interfaces with most of the SIM solutions that are available on the market today. So it's a more complete solution and very cost efficient as well. By looking at our very unique 4 layers of security checking, we see a very efficient design, a top to bottom implementation starting at the exit point layer of security, and we work our way down to the object layer of security. 4 layers of checking is performed. We start at the exit point. We'll check to see if you're allowed to use the exit point. So At that level of control, you can certainly work with our FYI simulation mode without interfering with production. Once you've passed that layer of security checking, you can move on to the next layer. We'll check the IP address or device name at the second layer of checking. So is the IP allowed or device allowed through that layer? Once you're allowed through that layer, we'll come down to the third layer that is checked, which is the user and what is the user allowed to do. In the case of FTP, is the user allowed to do FTP transaction? What is he allowed to do with FTP? Is he allowed to do a list, a put, a get, or all of the above? You can get very granular at this layer. You can choose any of the existing IBM group profiles for your user, or if that group profile doesn't exist, you can certainly use our firewall to create your own user groups and add members to it at this layer. Very efficient way of handling this level of security checking. Once you've passed that layer, we'll come down to the last and final layer of checking, which is the object, which is different from native object security. You can have your native object security already in place, but what if you wanted to make it different when someone is using an exit point to come into the IBM I? You do not want to give them that kind of access to a specific object, whether it's a production object or a sensitive credit card file, or whatever the case may be. You may want to say when they're using FTP or ODBC or SQL, I do not want them to access that object only from a command line. So very efficient way of handling the security checking at the exit point all the way down to the object and being able to control the access as needed. Do hope you're able to gain some valuable insight on how to secure the I. Please feel free to contact us using the information on the page. We do pride ourselves in offering end-to-end security for the I. Thank you for taking the time to check us out. Have a wonderful day.